You're good.
I think we can all agree that the pandemic, the China virus, has changed everything in our lives. It's changed the way we do our jobs. It changed the way we go about life. We got to wear masks and stay distant, and can't travel. I think it's changed my sports viewing habits, my habits as a sports fan. I haven't watched any Major League Baseball for the first time in my life since I was 6. I'm not watching baseball. I think it's still going on, right? Isn't the baseball season still going on? I believe
so. I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't seen anything about it, but I believe it's the activity of playing baseball.
And they're doing it like at Fenway, right? I mean, there are games at Fenway with no fans, I believe.
I snuck into Fenway the other day, though. So yes.
Was that you? I mean, I haven't watched like an inning, and I don't care. And I haven't watched much NBA. I'll check out the Celtics tonight, but I haven't watched much NBA. Flipped around. I'll see it. I'll flip past it. I haven't watched any NHL, but I am watching football, and I am going to start watching MMA because Colby Covington is my new favorite athlete. The only one who has the balls to call LeBron out, and by the way, become the enemy for the woke mob, for the ESPN clowns. They hate him because he doesn't hate the president. That's how it works. If you don't hate Donald J. Trump, if you don't think the country is systemically racist and awful, then ESPN, Max Kellerman, Rachel Nichols, the whole crew, Dan Lebatard, the whole crew, they don't like you. They root against you. But you know what else I'm doing, Shattuck? I'm looking forward to a couple things. And I'm not saying I'm excited about it, but they're boarding up buildings in Louisville. They are literally boarding up buildings in anticipation of the announcement of either the indictments of the cops or no indictments. Whatever it is will not be enough. There are 3 cops. I think the best they can hope for is one of them gets indicted. Only one of them lost his job. So we already know the investigation by the cops by the local investigation at the local level. They only found one cop at fault. He got fired. The cops who shot Breonna Taylor. If they make the announcement that there will be no indictments, Louisville will burn, which is bizarre, and it's outrageous because that is now the answer to everything. Like, if we don't like what the government is doing, if we don't like what a local public official is doing, then we're going to break windows, start fires. It's perhaps the most insane and disturbing development in the last 6 months, that the answer to things you don't like now in America is burn buildings, ruin businesses.
Jerry, they're gonna burn everything down if they do get indictments. It doesn't matter. It's demonstrating in the streets and going and burning city blocks in violence and stopping traffic and haranguing people is fully sanctioned now. It's fully sanctioned. It's been sanctioned in our politics. Kamala Harris was in Detroit yesterday. Biden is called a lid. By the way,
at 8:30 in the morning.
Exactly, 8:30. So right about now,
single laziest presidential candidate in the history of this country, who works less than I do. I mean, he goes out there every other day, gives a couple of lame speeches, takes no questions, does no interviews, and then goes back home for a nap. It's incredible what little effort the Democrat nominee is putting in, but. You're right. If Louisville is burning today or tomorrow, there won't be any Democrats that really come out and condemn it.
They're running on it, Jerry.
It's not sanctioned everywhere. As you see in Florida, they're trying to be preemptive and say this can't happen here. If you riot or loot, you're going to prison. It is a felony. And I love the way Governor Ron DeSantis is handling it. He came out. He's proposing a bill where you get if you're a driver and you drive away from the mob and hit someone, that you have immunity, whatever. You don't get. There's no penalty. There's no penalty.
Yeah.
You're allowed to run over Antifa scum who get in the way of your vehicle. Now, isn't that a wonderful thing? Would that ever happen with a fraud like Charlie Baker? I mean, they would. They obviously Baker. They thank rioters and looters for coming to their city. People like Baker and Marty Walsh. But in Florida, you can run over an Antifa scumbag, and you will not be prosecuted, which I love. I love that from DeSantis. But they're taking it seriously in Florida. I don't know why in Kentucky they wouldn't do. Why wouldn't you do the same thing everywhere? Say it's a felony. You're going to do 10 years. It's going to be a federal charge. Maybe if the feds get involved. Don't we see from Portland that the revolving door that you come in, that they take your picture, take your fingerprints, and then let you go back out and riot again? Don't we see how that's not
Kentucky
working?
is now a flashpoint, and it's more symbolic than ever. It's not only Breonna Taylor, but the man who killed Ruth Bader Ginsburg is in Kentucky. They've been surrounding his house.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
They've been surrounding his house for a week. He violated Ginsburg's dying wish. And yeah, this is all. It's all one. It's one confluence now into one energy in the Black Lives Matter stuff and the Ginsburg stuff, killing RBG, and the COVID stuff. It's all intertwined now.
Can we all agree that we wouldn't be in this searching circumstance if Ruth Bader Ginsburg just didn't resist arrest? I mean, couldn't we just agree if she just went willingly?
You mean
Mitch McConnell wouldn't have killed her? But here's the problem: is the Democrats, as you say, they don't condemn it. They don't, slam the desk and say we have to stop this rioting. They know it's coming. Obviously, they want the cops indicted. They want them arrested. They want them put away for life. That's the new Democrat way. Cops are the bad guys, so they want the cops. They don't care that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot first. Mm-hmm. Hit a cop. Shot him. And that cop, you're going to indict that cop, the one who got shot and fired back. But if there is rioting, if Louisville's burning this weekend, that's not good for Sleepy Joe or Kamala, because they won't condemn it. And it's literally a campaign ad for Donald Trump. When you see cities burning, that is literally, they're taking it, turning it around, making it a campaign ad.
I would think so. I would think that enough people have seen this stuff to know that this is pure thuggery and criminality in the streets at this point, and it's not tethered to any real social justice. But once it's filtered through the media, who knows what people are getting? And Biden, who we know is on ice right now, and Kamala is running. She's running on the Black Lives Matter platform. This is from yesterday. This is a young man asking her a question, a young student asking Kamala a question, and just listen to his question and the way she decides to respond.
On behalf of the Wayne State Black Student Union, we want to know that given that America is built on racism, sexism, and other evils, how will you as vice president advocate, whether through policy or just through the powers that that you can advocate on? How will we resolve these injustices for the Black community and specifically for Black women?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your role of leadership. Part of it is I'm going to need your help.
Is he going to be in the cabinet? I mean, that's the answer. The answer is whatever happened to the Sister Soldier movement. Why would she accept the premise unless the campaign is, united with it? Can you imagine?
I know the polls still have Biden in the lead, but I can't help but feel like the momentum is shifting. The earth is shifting below us, and Trump's out doing rallies. Biden's not leaving his house half the time. And everybody in America has to wonder why. Why is he not going out there? Well, I guess we know why, because when we see him out there trying to read a teleprompter, trying to make it through a 10-minute speech, there aren't many people who think, yeah, he's got the energy, the stamina to be able to do the job. They obviously, people who cover this, Shattuck, they've never seen anything like it. A candidate for president who doesn't leave his house half the time, who doesn't have any public events. On Saturday, they had the lid at 8:30 in the morning. He made no public appearances the day after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. On the same day, to bring it back to Colby Covington, Trump was out all day doing things, events and appearances. And at 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night, he called Colby Covington to congratulate him. So, 15 hours after Biden called it a day, Trump was still on the phone, still, doing his thing. If energy and stamina are issues, then there's no contest. You can't look at Biden and say he has the energy, he has the stamina to do the toughest job in the world. It just isn't possible.
Right. And his flubs aren't really flubs anymore. This stuff is carefully written on the teleprompter for him so he can't screw it up.
But they should be. It's estimated that 200 million people have died, probably by the time I finish this talk.
Now, everybody can misread a teleprompter, but there should be something in your mind, especially if you've been a politician now for almost 50 years. Something in your mind should be stopping this stuff from happening, but it doesn't.
You've covered politics for a long time, more than I have you ever seen anybody do interviews with a teleprompter? We talked about this yesterday. Obviously, Reamer's defending his guy. Oh yeah, everyone does it. I've never heard of such a thing. Have you ever heard of a guy doing an interview where literally there's an interviewer from, I mean, it's not really an interview with Biden. It's his campaign staffer like Stephanopoulos or one of these people sitting there, or the Univision guy that, they're there helping their team, but they have a teleprompter next to them. There's video of one of these interviewers sitting there, and you can see the teleprompter, and he's getting the question and he's reading the answer.
Yes,
have you ever seen that?
No, and it's such a collaboration with the media outfit that Biden takes the question from the guy in front of it, then jerks his head to the left to the teleprompter,
and then misreads it,
and reads it after they load it in.
Yes,
I mean,
but also, in fairness, though, COVID allows him to do that, right? Like you don't get that opportunity in other.
True, he's the
other
COVID candidate. Yeah. His excuse on why he can't travel and why he can't interact with the media or the people. Like he's not going to have that Joe the Plumber moment because he's not allowed to go near the voters, and Trump's doing it every day. Kamala's doing it, although she's not taking a lot of questions. I just saw Peter Ducey had her in Flint, Michigan, and saw her right up close to her and said, "Do you think Democrats should pack the court? Do you believe in court packing?" And she just looks at him and keeps on walking and ignores him. That's their strategy. Don't step in it. Don't say anything. Don't appear even crazier. I mean, here's what's going to be wild, and here's why I brought up the sports angle, is because normally you get excited if you're a sports fan. Oh, there's a big game tonight. It's a playoff game. You get excited, and I would be that way with a Celtics game or a Red Sox game if they were in a pennant race. But now I get up and I say, we have Trump naming a justice 5:00 Saturday, which will be wild because immediately the Democrats will go full anti-Catholic. And if it's either of the front runners or both Catholic, Coney Barrett is more Catholic than Barbara Lagoa, who's got other issues. But immediately the plan of attack will be she's in a cult. She's taking her orders from the Vatican. It will backfire. It won't work. I think they've ruined their chances of really, destroying a human being, a judicial nominee. With Kavanaugh, I think we all know they will sink to new depths. They will stop at nothing. They will lie. What they did to Kavanaugh is despicable. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in observing politics. They lied about him. They made him out to be a gang rapist in front of his wife, in front of his parents. It was disgusting. They will do it again. I think we'd agree that they fight even dirtier now. That
that is the whole point.
By the way, who was? It's hard to say, but who do you think was the worst, the most vile on the Judicial Committee when they were grilling Kavanaugh?
Blumenthal was a little nuts. And the guy reading his
yearbook, Sheldon Whitehouse. But
right.
You know who I think was the worst? Kamala.
Yes. Oh yeah. She
knew he was innocent, and she made it. She went all in on the gang rapist. She knew it was all made up. She didn't care. That if they do this again, and I don't think they should. I'm with all those people who say there should be no hearing because, what good does it do? They already added, did the math. They said 49 votes against, 51 for. They don't even have a nominee yet. There's been no hearings, and every Democrat has already just assumed they're going to vote against her, right?
Right. And why do it to yourselves? Why trust them? And what's this with this nicety of giving them a full and robust hearing? Why at this point? No matter what, the media and the Democrats are going to burn you. They're going to go after her. They're going to claim at the end. They may, honestly think that at some point during the hearings, the Democrats are going to leave Washington, D.C. and say, this is so abhorrent. This is so out of the norms of our current politics. What's happening here can't be accepted. We're leaving Washington. They're going to be behaving badly no matter what it is. There's no depth that they're not willing to go. Even years ago, like 8 years ago, when the government shut down and Barack Obama put big, heavy barricades so that 95-year-olds couldn't visit the World War II museum, which is an outdoor museum. You should be able to walk right through it. There's no stanchions or anything. It's just a bunch of statues. But the mean-spiritedness of it, there is no end to it. This is not.
But think of this. If they have hearings and it's Amy Coney Barrett, she's, I think, handle it well. She's been vetted before. She's been confirmed before on a lower court, so she knows what's coming. Is it good for Democrats to have the opportunity to go all in on trying to destroy this woman, a mother of 7, including 2 Haitian kids that she adopted, one of whom has special needs, and they were her kids, at least some of them, were behind her. Last time she was grilled by these Democrats, if they're there and they're going all in and saying, you're a crazy cult member, you really do you belong to that Handmaid's Tale cult?
I think they head fake on that stuff and they go right to something racist. All they have to do is produce somebody, some 8th-rate person who is on the quad the same day she was on the quad, and that person will just make something. There are enough civilian activists who are willing to be part of this movement to extinguish anything about Donald Trump, that's what they'll do. She'll be fine on the law resume stuff, and they'll act like they're going after her and the Catholic stuff and Handmaid's Tale stuff, but I think they'll head fake and go right to something more damning, and she'll be aghast at it, and then she'll be upset by it. And then they'll suddenly judge her on her response to these allegations of her being a deeply racist person. And they'll be ready for her to invoke the Haitian kids as well.
Right.
And some pundit, someone will say, you know what, that's her using tokenism, to cover.
I've already gone all in on the Catholic. I mean, obviously they're comparing the organization she belongs to the saying the Handmaid's Tale was based on this Catholic organization, but I think they focus on abortion just because that riles up their base like nothing else. If you want to get, those women we keep showing, we played one of them the other day. We played a few. There's a whole montage of these screaming lunatics, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, or when Trump won. You remember Tigglypuff out in Amherst, that fat crazy that woman that went nuts when Trump won.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch. There's a whole montage of them, and those people care more about abortion than anything else. And I hate to break it to them, but whoever Trump nominates is going to be against abortion. They're going to be pro-life. They're going to be pro-family, and they can't handle that. That'll be what drives the people nuts outside the court, which will get again. The answer to any grievance now is, let's light a fire. Let's throw a brick. It worked. It worked in, for Black Lives Matter. It worked for Antifa. It's still working in Portland. They don't get arrested. There is no heavy price to pay. They will throw bricks.
Yes, and those you're right. And the abortion is certainly something that they'll be constantly jabbing her with. And they'll say, there was a woman named, Kristen Scott, who was 17 years old in Alabama, who needed to have health options, and she wasn't given them because of archaic rules on women's reproductive rights.
Reproductive rights. Good.
Your ideology, Amy Coney Barrett, your ideology prevented her from getting those, and that young lady died. What do you say to her right now? And it'll be something like that Kamala Harris will ask, and the others will ask. And just like when they had William Barr in, as soon as she starts to answer, they'll shut her off.
Right.
Say no.
You want to go to back alley abortions. Mm-hmm. That's what you want. Women are going to die. They're going to deny women reproductive health care. You're right. It'll be, but you can't really bully, a woman, especially if she comes across as well-intentioned, as you point out, if her Haitian kids are right behind her. Good luck with that. See,
the women can.
Here's what we got going on. I know on sports radio we used to give you the lineup coming up. Here's what we got going on. We got a decision in Louisville on whether to indict the cops. I predict one cop gets indicted. I'm not sure if it is just throwing raw meat to the mob, but that one cop that shot the most, who got fired, clearly there was some some malfeasance here, or he wouldn't have been fired, right? So there's something there they can work with to indict him. Maybe it'll be second-degree manslaughter, or and he'll probably get acquitted at some point because, again, the boyfriend shot first. That's going to matter to a jury. But that'll be another day to board up the city. That'll be another day to get out the riot gear. On this day, if you indict that one cop, maybe it mitigates the damage. That's coming any minute now. On Saturday at 5 o'clock, Trump's going to name his choice. It's probably, hopefully, I think it'll be Amy Coney Barrett. I like her. Although Ann Coulter's not a big fan. Everybody else seems to like her, but we'll see. And
well,
then
Ann Coulter doesn't like women to start with.
That's true. She doesn't think women should vote. She's against the 19th Amendment. And, when you think about it, if it weren't for the 19th Amendment, we would have never had Bill Clinton. So maybe she's onto something. But and then at 6 o'clock, you're going to find out, like you said, she once, murdered a black hitchhiker. She's got sex slaves, locked up in her basement. And do you deny that, Miss Barrett, that you killed that drifter that day in college? I mean, they will make up all kinds of lies and stories about her. And then on Tuesday, I have the ticker. The ticker. I'll give you the exact time. On Tuesday, the debate. And I cannot believe, Shattuck, that the guy, Joe Biden we're looking at, stumbling around, wandering around in the dark, wandering around like he's, really shouldn't be doing any job. I mean, he really should be in an assisted living facility, getting some help, seeing a doctor, getting some medication, living out his life as comfortably as possible. I don't want to disrespect the man. I feel bad for people who have cognitive issues or in decline. That man is not fit to debate anybody, let alone Donald Trump. Now, again, I don't think Trump's a great debater. I don't know where you come down on this, but he's far superior. He's got more energy. He's more lucid than Biden. I don't know how this works. How does he make it through an hour and a half debate? There's 6 topics. There's one moderator, Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace is not a fan of Donald J. Trump. He's not, but he does not. He's a journalist. He's going to want to appear balanced, and he's going to want to appear objective. If he follows up and goes at Biden, how does Biden do it without a teleprompter? Tell me that.
Well, how he's done it on the trail without a teleprompter. He gets upset, over the top, offers to fight whoever's bothering him, and then usually swears. And he gets unhinged, and he has that look that his mind has been launched, kind of. No, I agree with you. I mean, so there are whispers that, Jerry, that Biden keeps putting a lid on the day early because he's studying for the debate. So I don't believe that.
I don't care how much you could study. I've been around people with dementia. Studying doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't help. And I know, again, there's never been a candidate going into a debate with lower expectations, with a lower bar. So if he doesn't fall on his face, the media will be fawning all over him, just like they did when he made the 25-minute speech at the convention, which was just a bunch of cliches. And they all came out and said it was historic. It was epic. It was an amazing, greatest speech of his life. There's no teleprompter. There's no speech. This is a debate. And I can't tell you how excited I am to watch. It is bigger, better than any game, at least since the Super Bowl. Watching this thing on Tuesday, the ratings are going to be ridiculous. And what
I gotta be honest,
I mean,
Jerry,
don't you just expect something crazy to happen?
Yes, I do. Expect something crazy. If you look at the last time Biden debated as a VP against Paul Ryan, Biden was very street fighty. It was more talking over him. Don't you do in platitudes, and he didn't exactly. He wasn't exactly full of data and metrics in that debate. He was just pushing Paul Ryan around. I don't think he can do that anymore. I think he's lost any kind of pit bull in him, and so he's going to have to just keep pairing Trump with COVID. You know, you stand here, 200,000
Right.
dead. That's on
200
your
million.
hands, and just hope that Trump reacts to it. And Trump's going to react to it. The only thing is, Trump's not going to study. So he's going to have to use his wits like he did with Hillary Clinton and give whatever Biden says to him and hit Biden over the head with him. But he could, if Trump could stick to just 5 points or so, you know, all of these ailments that Biden's going to mention other than COVID can be traced right back to Obama. You know, the Obama, the infrastructure problems with Obama, he squandered all that stuff. Biden was in charge of the stimulus package. There's a whole hell of a lot. Obama and Biden built and cultivated ISIS. There's a good one.
Right. Trump's going to do what he always does. He's going to repeat himself. He's going to talk about the China travel ban 500 more times because Biden was against it. Biden called it xenophobic and racist and everything else. And I mean, the notion that Trump killed 200,000 people is absurd. The notion that it would have been better with President Biden or President Hillary Clinton is absurd, and everyone knows it. Biden will keep repeating it, and obviously his supporters at all the networks, NBC and ABC and the Globe, they'll all repeat it, but everyone knows it's absurd. I mean, Trump shut off travel from Europe, and people were like, "What?" Mm-hmm. There's no way President Biden would have done that. There's no way that we wouldn't have a lot more than 200,000 people who've died with the virus than with President Biden. But how many times do you predictably say, "Come on, man. Come on, man"? I mean, that's his device.
Yep.
Or maybe he'll say, I've said enough. You know, I probably shouldn't say that. When he loses his way and he doesn't know what to say, he goes, I probably shouldn't say anymore. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Right.
I mean,
well, when the moderator, gives him 60 seconds to answer, and he cedes back 45 seconds of that, which is not something a federal politician, national politician usually ever does. Usually you have too much content,
right,
and you try to run that 60 seconds into a minute 40 seconds, and eat up more clock and get your messaging out and suck out the oxygen from everybody else. Yeah, he could have a good night. He could have a lucent night with Anderson Cooper. He was lucent. That was extremely coached, and Cooper held his hand.
Right, and he's on medication, which is helping at certain times. I think Trump has heard the rumors, and that's why he keeps bringing up him getting a shot in the ass. And
yes.
Do a drug test. If you do a drug test and he tests positive for Prevagen, who cares? That doesn't disqualify him. I'm not sure why else Trump is harping on that.
But tens of thousands of people are going to listen to this podcast today, and you guys are just going to completely overlook the endorsement of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex today. Like, that has no impact.
What about the endorsement of Cindy McCain?
No. Yeah.
Associated Press, Shattuck, called it a stunning rebuke of Trump. When Cindy McCain endorsed, she hasn't done it yet. She's going to endorse Biden. I mean, so a very rich widow of a guy who hates Trump. And the AP, if you want just a glimpse at the bias of the agenda of all the mainstream media, they call that a stunning rebuke. If she didn't support Biden, it would be stunning. There's no rebuke. There's no way Cindy McCain or any McCain was ever going to endorse Trump. It's so ridiculous. But you mentioned how dirty it's going to get, and it is going to get dirty. 5:00 Saturday, get ready. It's coming. Amy Coney Barrett is the devil. She's Satan. But have you ever seen, I keep saying, have you ever seen anything like this? Have you ever seen a candidate reading his answers on a teleprompter when he's doing a one-on-one interview? The answer is no. Have you ever seen anything like what Mike Bloomberg did? And again, we'll play the game. Can you imagine if a rich supporter of Donald Trump did what Mike Bloomberg did? If, what's his name? The guy from Vegas, Sheldon
Adelson.
Adelson had done what Bloomberg did. Bloomberg paid the fines of 32,000 felons in Florida so that they could get the right to vote back. And he's assuming, obviously, they'll vote for Biden because that's what felons do. And he stipulated, he spent, was it 16 million? 16 million to pay off the fines of 32,000 felons so that they could be eligible to vote. But did you see the stipulation? They had to be black or Hispanic. He didn't pay the fines for any white felons. So the white felons in South Florida, I assume, well, I was going to say Jeffrey Epstein, but I don't think he can vote anymore either. but the white felons not eligible. And there's a lot of them, rednecks down there in Florida. But the black and Hispanic felons are off the hook. Mike Bloomberg, one guy, paid off all their fines and wants them to go out there and vote for Biden. This is Florida, where it could come down to the wire, where they could be hanging chads for days. And a Democrat, a very wealthy, very liberal guy like Bloomberg can assure that tens of thousands of felons will be ex-felons, I guess, whatever you call them, will be out there to vote for his guy.
Right.
Is that not I mean, can you imagine if a Republican did that? How crazy the media would be going today, saying, how nuts would Bernie Sanders be going? Elizabeth Warren, who rails against the billionaires and millionaires all the time.
I don't know how he can set up what is essentially a business transaction that is exclusionary of a race. To me, it seems like that's frowned upon. But not only that, Jerry, but in the last 5 months, Trump has been garnering more and more support from Hispanics. Hispanics who have businesses, who are law-abiding, who live in this country, who do not like the Black Lives Matter stuff. And you've promised Hispanics in Cubans in Florida that you're going to unleash criminals into their communities in order to...
I guess there's no guarantee they'll vote for Biden. You're right. The Cuban community is generally Republican. So maybe some of them, but he's counting. I mean, let's be honest. If you have 32,000 felons, you pay their fines, they go to vote. What, 90, 95%, 97% are going to vote for Biden? He knows that. But there's no outrage, at least, other than, Fox, who's upset about this? Has the Globe written an editorial, or the New York Times, on how outrageous it is that one billionaire can swing the election just with his checkbook, can swing the election in one key battleground state? Well,
isn't LeBron doing the same thing?
Yes, LeBron's involved in that.
Oh, that's the same one. Okay. Jesus, it's crazy.
I story right here. Yeah, LeBron's involved in paying off the fines for 30. And you know what you could do if there were actual journalists, actual media, you could find out what some of these people did. I assume there's guys who beat up their girlfriends and wives, or mugged old ladies, or robbed.
Yeah,
hard criminals, people, sexual predators, sexual deviants preying on minors, and a rich liberal is paying off their fines and assuring us that they'll go out there and vote for Biden. It's outrageous, but there's whatever it takes to beat the big bad orange man is all that matters.
I think that's a bad move.
Doesn't packing the court seem like and I don't even know why. Why don't Republicans do it? Why don't they just say, screw you, we'll do it, and then add 5 justices and let Trump pick them? You know why? Because it seems outrageous. It seems anti-American. And Democrats are talking about it like, hey, if you want to name a justice, which is your constitutional duty, if you're going to do that, then we're going to add a bunch of judges to the court and control the court for a generation. It's just, and people are going, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds reasonable. It's incredible.
Yes, to say that we're going to get rid of the filibuster on everything, so that from now on, a simple majority, when we win, the Democrats are saying we can pass anything we want to. We're going to add 2 new senators because we're going to have 2 new states, and we're going to pack the courts so we can codify, without having to have any kind of democratic process happen, everything we want into law, which means everything AOC wants into law, because they're all afraid of her. It is remarkable. And to have Republicans, and I like Jonah Goldberg, but to have Republicans say, you know what, maybe we should compromise. We should compromise, or else
I hate
maybe if we compromise, maybe they'll withdraw 1 out of the 3 threats that they say they're going to do to destabilize the country.
Right. Get rid of the Electoral College, which they can't do. You need 3/4 of the states. You can't.
Well, unless you change. Yeah. Well, I think you'd be right on that. Well, if you
can't do it because you're talking about states that wouldn't matter anymore. If you get rid of the Electoral College, they're never going to vote for that. But you're right. I hate these never Trump with these Jonah Goldberg, David French saying, yeah, we should compromise. Why? They would never, ever compromise if the shoe were on the other foot. We've seen how dirty they fight, especially on the court, for the court.
Right. No, the never Trumpers want to compromise. They want, when Trump gets removed and all of his people are frog marched out of D.C. and the Trump element is gone, they want their rightful place at those dinners in the press club in D.C. where all the really good intellectuals get together and talk about how you and I can't grasp it because we haven't read enough Hayek, like they have. And that's what they want. They want their place back in the good seats back.
Right. And it's disgusting because they know that it wouldn't work the other way. If the Democrats had the White House and the Senate, they'd already have someone, on the court, someone new on the court. They wouldn't wait till the body was cold. By the way, is there something creepy about her laying in repose in public, going up to look at this poor 87-year-old woman's body? I mean, she was a judge. She wasn't a saint. I mean, she wasn't a president for that matter. I mean, are we going to do the same when Sandra Day O'Connor croaks? I mean, we didn't do it for, every judge. It just seems like so over the top. She's so just venerated, deified by the left. It's insane.
Yeah, but they made her
making a statue of her in New York. A statue. I thought we were tearing statues down. We're making a statue of her.
But that is, they made her into an icon. They made her into the most important, voice in the judiciary.
But it wasn't enough for some people, Shattuck. It wasn't enough. We obviously we heard the tributes to her, and everybody, Tom Brady was tweeting out tributes to her. And every celebrity was saying what a historic figure she was, what a wonderful person. Even the Republicans, even Trump were saying nice things about her. Obviously, the Scalias were saying wonderful things about her. But somebody wasn't happy. Rachel Nichols on ESPN wasn't happy because the NBA didn't do enough to honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And you would think, you'd be like, what the hell? Why? Did they do anything for Antonin Scalia? Did they do anything for whoever? I mean, so what? Why is the NBA supposed to honor her? Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw the tweet from the Babylon Bee, which is a satirical site. It was funny as hell. They said the NBA is going to wear those collars, those lace collars that Bader Ginsburg wore, obviously. And they actually did it. They put one of those lace collars on LeBron. It was hysterical.
It was great.
But Rachel Nichols doesn't think the NBA did enough because they didn't honor the notorious RBG.
Wow, I want to play this audio for everybody because I'm shocked that you disagree with this take. Actually, there's no we'll play it, but there's no consistency here. I agree with Rachel Nichols. I'm with her on this.
So I talk sometimes about the women of the NBA, and often someone will try to correct me and say, "You mean the WNBA?" And I'll say, "No, I mean the NBA." Yes, what you see on your TV when you watch the NBA is men playing basketball. But in every corner of the sport, there are women, all through the league office, team front offices, training staffs, coaching staffs. And none of them, me included, would be able to do the jobs we do the way we do them if it wasn't for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Honestly, if you are an American woman who appreciates not having to ask your father or husband for permission to manage your own finances, property, health, you owe a gigantic debt to the notorious RBG, something the WNBA recognized with a lovely video tribute before its playoff game last night. So it was surprising then, and disappointing, frankly, when the NBA chose not to do the same, despite that it was just last month the league held such meaningful moments of silence for not just politician and civil rights icon John Lewis, but actor Chadwick Boseman. If you are a league that holds equality as a core value, and I know for sure that this league does, the icons of that equality can't just be those who helped the men that we all see on TV, but those who paved the way for the women who work right alongside them. After all, the NBA is significantly stronger.
All right, you get the point. You know where she's going with that. But I mean,
I would like to hear the same thing from her as I asked of everybody. I asked her, just can you name me one thing? Could you be specific? What did she do that allows you, Rachel Nichols, to do your job? What did she do? I'm sure she could come up with something, but if I were her boss, I'd say, could you stick something in?
That's not her point. Her point is, if you're going to honor John Lewis and honor Jacob Blake, why are you not
honoring Jacob Blake is absurd and outrageous on its face, but maybe she's right that and they're honoring everybody now but again, they're not going to honor Sandra Day O'Connor. They're not going to honor, they didn't honor Antonin Scalia. What's the standard? You just have to be a far left radical liberal, who believes that in abortion in the third trimester. You have to be that for the NBA to honor you? Is that the rule?
Well, you would think that there would be a lot of other people that would be in there more than her. I mean, so they're honoring her really as being a lawyer activist for the ACLU and now in the 1970s. And
Right.
so she had a number of sex discrimination cases, but as a Supreme Court justice, nothing really stands out as, a incredible landmark decision that she made. She didn't seem to be is somebody a really quotable person like
Oh, I disagree. I quoted her, and it's my favorite quote when she said she said Kaepernick was a fraud. I love that one.
right, that's
Yeah,
right. But with Scalia
I think that's been purged from the record. But she said she mocked Kaepernick's protest. But tell me this, Shattuck, is there one thing she ever did as a justice on the Supreme Court that took courage?
I don't know. I can't think of one.
She was a reliable left-wing vote, just like Clarence Thomas is a reliable right-wing vote. She doesn't swing the court either way. She never makes a decision where you're not sure which way she's going to come down. I mean, she was just that person who always voted with the liberals, always.
Right.
So why is that so commendable? Why does that make her this deity to the average person or to the NBA? What the hell do they care?
Well, it is interesting, Jerry, that when people talk about her, they'll say, she had really good friends who were conservatives. She was really good friends with Scalia. She was, as if that's an unthinkable thing a liberal would ever consider a lowly, hedonistic conservative somebody worth being friends with. They never talked about Scalia being friends with liberals. That was expected because they were reasonable, good people. He could learn something from them, but she tolerated the presence of conservatives and Republicans, and that's the biggest thing I hear about her. I think she's fine. I guess she had a very good career, and to come from any background, especially when it was harder as a woman to get into stuff and to ascend like she did, is very laudable. I don't think that Rachel Nichols or anybody else, regardless of where you are and what your identity is, should be thanking government for giving you the leeway to have your hard work pay off. Because what government mostly does is impede your road to success one way or another. Government is a hindrance to your success. I think that maybe with the WNBA, you could say that Title IX has a lot to do with the fruitfulness of the WNBA.
Who cares? I don't care. I will say this, Rachel Nichols, and I don't have a big problem with that commentary. That's one of her heroes. I would have liked, again, more specifics, but it's in the halls at ESPN or in Bristol, they were applauding it, saying, "Wasn't that wonderful that Rachel did? Isn't that wonderful? The NBA should have put patches on their uniforms of Ruth. They should have written her name on the court because that's what they do." And this is what happens at ESPN. ESPN is the ultimate echo chamber. Everybody there thinks the same way. It's much like MSNBC or NBC. There's just never to be heard a discouraging, dissenting word. And yesterday, Max Kellerman, who is a moron, Max Kellerman talked about the riots or looting and blamed it on right-wing extremists. And as far as I could tell, people like me were calling him out on Twitter, but did anybody push back at ESPN? They probably all said, yeah, it's the white supremacists. I mean, they just live in this bubble where they don't care about the truth. They go with the left-wing narrative and accept it, and they're all on the same page. And that's why I loved Whitlock's column. I love all his columns, but the takedown of Katie Nolan, where he also called out, Stephen A. Smith and Dan Le Batard and Max Kellerman and all the rest who just nod and smile and yeah, RPG, white supremacists are looting Portland. It's just moronic.
Yeah, and it comes from the same place. It comes from knowing that they're way overpaid for their level of competence, for their level of talent, and knowing that they've got this life that's elevated through really some kind of luck lottery, and feeling bad about it. So what's the right religion so that we can tithe a little bit on the air so that we can feel okay about this, that I live so far away from any of these people that I portend to value so much. Tell me what to say. And so now he's blaming the riots and the bricks flying through cop cars on the Boogaloos or whatever. And it's moronic.
It's not moronic.
Sign their name to the violence.
It's a lie, right? It's a lie. It's a flat out lie. It's not true. It's dishonesty is what it is. It's like these idiots, and Don Lemon has done it recently, and Paul Krugman said, I don't see any riots. I went to dinner in my favorite, favorite Italian place in the Upper East Side, and I didn't see any riots. And meanwhile, if you just look, you see small businesses destroyed, and restaurants and bars and just destroyed by looters and rioters all over the country.
Yes, in New York City, you've had to have the governor is begging for people to come back. Please come back and spend money back in the city. But meanwhile, you're right. You've got Don Lemon, and then Cuomo said, "Yeah, we were out together." And you know what? I couldn't believe it. Don Lemon took out his credit card and paid the bill.
Oh, we had a wonderful dinner. It was awesome. And nobody set the restaurant on fire when we were there. So as long as you don't get any on me, I'm cool with it. You're destroying the lives of countless, small business people, working people, whatever, bartenders, waitresses, just ruining their lives. But you didn't got any on me. I didn't get any, embers on me. So go nuts, have fun. But I want to hear from Max Kellerman, because you got to hear it to believe it. He's such an idiot.
A few of the things he said when he talks about Black Lives Matter, 93% of the protests are peaceful. The overwhelming majority are peaceful. And by the way, the 7% that are not, they have a very broad definition of what's not quote unquote peaceful. For example, if you block traffic or something like that, or if you respond to police provocation. And even then, a big percentage of that, that wasn't peaceful, is actually outside agitators, extremist right-wing agitators posing as protesters in order to make the protests look bad. That's the first thing. When he talks
well, that's 100%. It's all gone.
What an absolute a-hole. I mean, think of that. He said, first of all, he's talking about the lie of only 7% are violent. Okay, so you have a protest with, 5,000 people at it, say in DC or in Portland, whatever. That would be 7. How many?
350 would that be?
That'd be 70 out of 1,000. So that'd be 350. 350 violent left-wing Antifa BLM rioters. You think that's not a big deal? You think that's not really a factor, you moron? Secondly, the police provocation. I mean, we've gotten past that. Have you watched the freaking news, Max Kellerman? Have you been on Twitter? We talk about, Andy No all the time, or Lives Matter, Dylan Hernandez. These guys are on the front lines with their phones, with their cameras, recording everything. And you sit back and you say, they're not violent. And the ones who are violent are right-wing agitators. We literally see the mugshots and the police records and the biographies of these people every day. There's no right-wing agitators. Hell, Kyle Rittenhouse, who's villain, evil to people like Max Kellerman, is a 17-year-old kid trying to protect businesses because the cops didn't do their jobs. They were told to stand down. So people like Rittenhouse said, I will try to defend these poor small businesses. He was, he shot 2 scumbags in self-defense, 3 actually in self-defense, killed 2. And he'll walk free soon and live happily ever after, I hope, because everybody knows it was self-defense. But can you believe somebody on a big, with a big national stage like Max Kellerman actually said that today, late September, says it's right-wing agitators?
Yeah, you can't have, not only is it not factual, and there's nobody who's not just absolutely intellectually dishonest who would ever say that. Because you can see them, you see the arrests. There's video out there. The video is taken by the agitators celebrating their agitations on social media.
Thank God there is video, because liars like Max Kellerman, would have some impact if we didn't see it with our own eyes. I mean,
yes, they
sit there and carry water for Antifa and BLM and say, there's only a few agitators and they're right wingers. I mean, and what did Stephen A. say? This was on First Take, or what did the woman, whatever her name is, the host, say? Did anybody push back? See, that's what life at ESPN is like. You can lie, say something so outrageous that it's right-wing agitators. If you did that, on the radio, when I was on the radio, or on a actual credible show like on Fox News, someone would say, "Are you nuts?" In fact, it happens every day. Juan Williams is one of those clowns who says there's really no violence. That's all made up. And Greg Gutfeld, who lives in a neighborhood that's been destroyed, just loses his mind every time Juan Williams does it, and they fight. That's the way it should be. Someone at ESPN should call out Max Kellerman, say, "Max, you moron. Where'd you get the idea that it's right-wing agitators? Are you not paying attention?" God,
right.
Me.
And they don't see it, so they won't see the violence. They will see the husband and wife with the machine gun on their own lawn standing there. They won't see any of the damage. They won't see the fires. They will see the mayors asking Trump for money to fix the damage, and they think Trump's cruel for not fixing the damage. That didn't happen, apparently, we're told at the same time. I mean, this will be a good test to see if this gaslighting works this year, because they've all been doing it. If you've got Jerry Nadler, whose own district has been affected by violence and rioters, who now needs money from the president, who said that the Antifa doesn't exist, it's not there. We'll see how this pans out. But there's supposed to be this suspension of disbelief this year,
right.
And the election will be a good referendum on that.
Well, Ayanna Pressley called for more civil unrest.
Well, at least she acknowledges the violence. She just says it's good.
It's good, right? Maura Healey, the AG, said this is how forests grow, by people burning down.
I forgot about that.
Makes forests grow. These people are in power, and they're endorsing this violence. I would ask them and Max Kellerman, why do you think businesses in Louisville are boarding up their windows right now? Why are they closing and boarding up their windows and hiring security? Why? Because of right-wing agitators? Because if these cops don't get indicted, Black Lives Matter is going to burn the whole thing down, to quote Michael Brown's father, burn the bitch down. That's what's going to happen. And they're not doing it. It ain't right-wing agitators. If there are any right-wing agitators, they're there to protect the businesses. It's just so ridiculous.
Well, you're right, and that's burned the
segment, by the way. After because Max Kellerman just plays the hits the entire show. This is a segment right after he said that the Broncos were absolutely insane for not taking a look at Colin Kaepernick over Blake Bortles.
Oh, did he?
So he just played the hits right there for ESPN.
Why doesn't ESPN hire Kaepernick? Everybody there loves him. Everybody at that company loves the man. I mean, why can't they bring him in as some kind of
Well, they technically did, right? Didn't he do a deal with Disney for his production company or something like that? Was that Disney or was that somewhere else?
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it was Disney. It is Disney.
Nobody makes more money for doing less than Colin Kaepernick. Nobody in America makes more for doing less. He's got a great gig. That's why he doesn't want to play football.
Right, and that's why Max Kellerman says things like that, because he knows the Broncos aren't going to look at Colin Kaepernick because they know that Colin Kaepernick does not want to play football.
There's no interest. I mean, why would he want to risk injury? We can just sit back and let clowns like Kellerman do his bidding and have Nike, pay him millions to have slaves in China
over his sacrifice. It's funny you guys say that, because he is kind of using the Joe Biden strategy of just cloistering away and let others do the work for you. Let other evangelists for you, carry the cause on your behalf. For Biden, obviously, it's every Democrat in the country, and Kamala Harris. And for Kaepernick, it's everybody else and all these people in the NBA. And when's the last time he said anything? He
never says anything. He knows. I'll give him this. He's smart enough to know he's not that smart. If he goes out before the cameras like he did one time in Miami and starts debating Cuba versus the U.S. against the reporter who was a Cuban American, he knows he'll look like a moron, and so he doesn't say it. He's smart enough to keep his mouth shut and let other people do his bidding and make him out to be a hero and an icon and a civil rights leader who says nothing. I mean, he could step out on the sidewalk right now and the cameras would be all there. He could talk about whatever, Breonna Taylor. He could talk about Jacob Blake, whatever, anything. He doesn't do it. He just sits quietly and lets stooges like LeBron, kiss his feet and do his bidding for him.
Was he a gregarious guy as a QB? Did he talk to reporters after a win in the locker room?
He's an angry, dour guy, but yeah, he did. I mean, he had to. I mean, it's kind of a rule, but he's the most the quietest civil rights leader ever. You know, you think he'd be leading marches and making speeches, but he knows he doesn't want to expose himself. Rather, keep quiet and let them wonder how smart you are. Open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Did you see that Nike put out a special jersey for him and it sold out in a minute? You know,
Yeah.
Can
you imagine?
4 years after he took a knee, because my wife and I, we celebrate our 4-year anniversary. That's a big one for us. So they make a special jersey. It sells out in under a minute.
Oh, by the way, you'll be happy to know yesterday in Detroit, Kamala, Jerry, was wearing her tan Timberlands.
Oh, was she? Oh, those are everything. Those are everything. I hated them when Melania Trump wore them, but when Kamala, I mean, they just work for Kamala.
Well, it's a statement. It's made to make you uncomfortable and get into your face.
I tell you what, if you're a Democrat and you're thinking that Amy Coney Barrett's going to get grilled by the Senate Judicial Committee, that you got to be worried that Kamala is going to look like the mean girl again. That is not going to be good for her if she's attacking another woman because the woman is a Catholic. Good luck with that. But you know, what choice does she have? She's on the committee. She's going to have to attack.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to load her up with one-liners and have her go in there with those daggers and try to stab.
Good luck.
Barrett.
Good luck.
Well, I mean, the thing that is tough about that is that she's got no defense. So once she gets outside and she's somewhere where she mistakenly takes a question from someone in the press or someone in the town hall, Miss Tough is going to fold like she did, you know, when Tulsi Gabbard just destroyed her. She's got no defense, Kamala.
Well,
you saw it. I watched way too much of this stuff of her yesterday in the parking lot in Detroit, talking BLM and woke politics and throwing the cops under the bus. You heard that guy we played. You know, this country was born on sexism and racism and xenophobia and this and that. And she said, yep. She said, whatever it took to get out of that room, you know, alive. And she's got no skills. And that's going to start looking bad considering she's on the top of the ticket, essentially.
Right. It's, but it's all they got. They don't have Sleepy Joe's not going to carry the day. But a couple more things I want to get to before we wrap this up. I cannot believe that the NFL, we talked about this yesterday, because 3 coaches on Sunday didn't have their masks worn properly and were fined. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. You're, Pete Carroll and they fined these coaches for not wearing their masks or not wearing them the whole time. $100,000 each, and the team $250,000. So $350,000 to those 3 coaches. Then on Monday night, it was Gruden against Sean Payton. They both were fined, same deal, $350,000. So what's $350,000 times 5? That's 5. That's 1.75 million for coaches not putting the masks over their mouth and their nose. I'm not sure how Belichick got away without getting fined. His was on his nose, but not on his mouth, which was a little weird. First of all, they're surrounded by players who have no masks on, including players who aren't even playing. Secondly, they're tested every day. They did 36,000 tests in a week in the NFL. There were 5 positives, 36,000 tests. None of them were players. It were personnel like, ball boys or equipment managers. 5 positives out of 36,000 tests. So everybody around them, just like when Trump does an event at the White House, everybody just got tested. Everybody's negative. And these coaches are trying to breathe, they're trying to talk, so they take the mask off. They know the mask is just for show, and they get fined $350,000. That's the ultimate in, as Reamer likes to say, performative action on the part of the NFL. They know that the mask is meaningless. The guys who got fined Monday, Peyton and Gruden, they both already had the virus. They're not going to get it again. And I tweeted about this and everyone said, there was a guy in, Mongolia who got it twice. There's a guy in Ecuador who had it twice. It's happened. No, it hasn't. I don't believe it happens. I believe you have immunity. I believe you have, what do you call it when you have the
antibodies?
You have the antibodies. Gruden knew it. Gruden knows it. He's not getting it again. and he's trying to, talk. So he takes the mask down, and the league hits him up for $350,000. It's ridiculous.
Jerry, you're missing the point here. What kind of message does it send?
I know.
To impressionable NFL viewers that he's going for a nanosecond without his mask on? That is endorsing.
Obviously saw Andy Reid on opening night with the screen, the plastic shield thing.
By the way, a lot of these head coaches are moving up and down the field with the teams as they go along here. At some point, it's tough to breathe. Are you allowed to just take the mask off just to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide?
I guess you can drink water, obviously. I guess you can take it off at halftime when you're indoors where the virus is generally transmitted. Outdoors, there's very little evidence that it gets transmitted.
And who's diming them out? Are there spotters in the stands? There's no stands in the stands.
It's all on TV. I was watching it Sunday saying, I wonder if that's going to get the guy in trouble, because some of them, one coach, I think it was the Carolina guy, started the game with the plastic screen, and he, it's fogged up. So then he came back with just a mask. And some of them have sunglasses or glasses, like so they prevent it from going in their eyeballs. It's just
actually, this is good. This is promising. This is a way that us, the fans, can get involved. Because who are the Pats playing this weekend? Do you know?
The Pats are playing
whoever it is. If we had been paying attention Sunday, we could have on social media dimed out everybody on the Seahawks who didn't have their mask on for a moment. We could have financially destroyed every member of the team coming into next week. Or I guess we'd have to do it for whatever team's coming next week.
Patriots are hosting the Niners, which is too bad because Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt, Nick Bosa's hurt. They get crushed by injuries, and I don't think Garoppolo's playing. No, I'm sorry, not the Niners. It's that's in. The Patriots are hosting the Raiders. I knew that. The Vegas Raiders. I knew it was. So Gruden will come in and he'll be fidgeting with his mask. Hopefully he'll take it off and, they'll get him for another $350,000.
I want to know whose job that is to find it, to look and freeze frame. Stop it. Freeze, advance, freeze right there. There it is. The mask came off.
Chiefs next week. They're at the Chiefs. That's a good one. And we'll get to see if Andy Reid's wearing the plastic face shield again and fogging it all up. But Andy Reid, I give you this. I mean, unless he's already had the virus, he's in danger of getting it. And it really he's in a high risk category.
I like that last week you moved the threshold up to 400 pounds, Jerry. I appreciated that.
I think Reid is close to that, so he better be careful. But I know this is disappointing. It's disappointing again in the halls of ESPN, at the networks, and all the mainstream media are rooting for the virus. We've already established that they are rooting for the virus. They don't like good news. They don't like when the NFL has 36,000 tests and everybody's clean and they go ahead and play the games. They don't want that. They want it to be a problem. We heard from a number of people when they decided to play college football, a number of media people. Most famously, Christine Brennan said it was the darkest day in Big Ten history when these teams decided that rather than practicing, they'd actually play some games. That's worse than Sandusky or Larry Nassar, the worst day in Big Ten history. But did you see the news yesterday? Around the country, 48,000 college students tested positive for the virus. That's not just players, in players, it's much less, but 48,000 students around the country, because students all have to get tested when they went back to school. They have to get tested regularly. My son gets tested. 48,000 tested positive. Would you care to guess how many ended up in the hospital?
I'll go with Kellerman, 7%.
2, Tom Shattuck. 2 out of 48,000. Now, when you hear that, you know how many died? 0. So all these clowns that were protesting, going back to school and holding up little makeshift, make pretend gravestones and saying, you're going to kill us all if you make us go to school. These kids went back to school and they went to parties and they went to the gym and they went to class, and some of them got sick for a day or two, maybe a week, and they got better, like when the flu hits campus. 2 went to the hospital out of 48,000.
Surrounded.
It is not a problem for college students.
That's it.
Every student should be back at school. Every team should be back on the field. Everyone should be back in the stands. If you're older or you're overweight and you think it's a risk, don't go. Don't.
Right. Merrimack College, they've got a few hundred here they've found, or a whole smattering anyway, they found that have the tested positive, and they're quarantining them in the dorm. Now, 4 months ago, they wouldn't have quarantined them in the dorm.
They would have sent them home 4 months ago, which is what I was screaming
They
about.
would have sent them into nursing homes 4 months ago, Jerry.
In New York, they said, "Oh, you're positive? Go visit grandma. Kill the whole floor. Kill the whole place." And we know better now. We know how stupid that was. And we know who's vulnerable. So those people, they know how to be careful, be isolated, stay away from the college kids should get it, get through it, and get on with their lives. Again, 48,000 positive tests. 2 went to the hospital. And those 2 were probably, hypochondriacs.
Right.
Said, I got to go to the hospital. I mean, but that's incredible. You know what that is? Statistically, that's 0. The same with the 6,000 tests in the NFL. You know how many tested positive, essentially? Nobody. 5 equipment managers had the flu. So they went home and stayed in bed for a couple of days. Everyone else, get on with your life. And John Gruden and Sean Payton already had it. They're not going to get it again. There's no reason for them to wear masks. I wish they bitched up. I really wanted them to say how crazy that was. Gruden talked about it and he said, I'll pay the fine, and he'll pay the fine. He makes $10 million a year. It's not a big deal, but it's just insane that the guy surrounded by hundreds of people without masks has to wear a mask, or they're going to take a $350,000 out of his pocket. Nuts.
No, yeah, and that's punitive. That it affects them,
right?
But other than that, like, I can't think of nationwide so many people in society adopting something in situations they don't need to at all. And I was in Charlestown a couple days ago. In Charlestown, I can't believe everybody's wearing masks, and there's nobody around you, and people along the Navy Yard are wearing masks anyway.
I couldn't believe it either when I was there last week in downtown Boston. People are running and biking with masks, and I'm going. I mean, I understand you want to appear respectful to other people, or putting masks on like 2-year-olds. A friend of mine has a 1-year-old or 1.5 now. And she said they can't travel. I'm like, what? They wanted to go to Florida. We can't because he won't wear the mask. I'm like, what? A 1-year-old has to have a mask on or they will not, the plane won't take off. I'm
Incredible.
Like, what? It's just bizarre. 1-year-olds don't need masks. It's so stupid. It's like putting a mask on your dog. It's just, not.
Yeah. It was a woman from New Hampshire just got tossed off a flight for not having her 2-year-old have a mask.
2-year-old has to have a mask or you can't go on the plane. And if they put it on and then take it off, they will literally tell you, you got to put that back on there or you get banned. A 2-year-old.
Can you imagine getting perp walked off the plane? But it's crazy. Like, I can't, what are other examples when everybody suddenly did something at one time? Like maybe after 9/11, American flags and flag pins, and that was a symbolic thing. Right. After the Canadians released hostages, I remember being on 93 and people honking their horns. I mean, but those are just symbolic positive events. This mask stuff is life-altering behavior, not really based on anything. We don't know if one human being has died because they didn't have a mask on at a certain time. There's no way to know. In fact, for the Lowell Sun, we covered a couple of high-profile cases of people who have died tragically and left tragic family situations behind, and they had done everything they were told. They were sequestered. They were down in the basement. And they had the masks on, and it went and killed them. And it's tragic, but there's too much we don't know. And every messenger has an ulterior motive, and that is a problem, or is a coward, and that's a problem. And someday,
I think you got a bunch of kids, and I think you should do on October 31st. You should take them to Walmart or Home Depot. Then kids love that. Take them, or you could take them. I think that day, I believe there's a BLM rally. You could take them to that. You could, take them to any crowded store, any other store. You could go to the Target. But you can't take them trick-or-treating. That's against the rules. No trick-or-treating. They can go out go to Faneuil Hall and walk around the crowds of people, but they can't knock on the neighbor's door with a bag and say, "Can I have a piece of candy?" That will kill people. That will kill children going door to door for candy.
And isn't that the perfect way for the towns like Wakefield, Melrose, and Wellesley to have the city council and the aldermen say, you know what? How do we make this hurt? How do we make Trump's actions hurt close to election time, and show all the parents? Have the parents have to live it out what Trump has done and cancel Halloween. So you're right; it's already happening. There's no doubt. And they've done it up here now. They've up where I am. I'm near New Hampshire. They've changed the rules suddenly so that locally, field hockey for my daughter who's 10, field hockey had to be changed so everybody has to wear a mask. The kids have to wear masks on the field. And so we're all just sending our kids to New Hampshire to play, where you can just play, normally without a mask. But
have any died? Had any of those girls in New Hampshire, have they died? How many died? What's the death toll?
Nobody has died as yet. Shocking.
You know what? They should move Halloween to November 4th when the virus will be gone. So everyone can trick or treat. Just wait a week or wait 5 days, and you can trick or treat November 4th, especially if Trump loses. Then no masks needed after that. Everyone will be back at school. They'll be back at bars and having concerts and everything else, as long as we get rid of the big bad orange man.
It's funny, Jerry, because you think about take Halloween in 1983, how unprepared and shocked Halloween in 2020 would be for that. 1, no masks. 2, people shaving creaming each other, egging houses. I mean, this year, if you egg a house, there's a chance that house has a Black Lives Matter or hate has no home here sign. So that is a hate crime.
Right.
Obviously, it's a punitive attack on somebody. I mean, Jesus, this is so incredibly soft. And I don't know. My feeling is in the town where I am right now, it's only Joe Biden signs. But there's no way any house without
where you live, you can't put a Trump sign, or someone will steal it and throw a rock through your window. You can't do that. That's how it works. You're only allowed to put Biden signs up, put Trump signs up. They might burn your house down. That's how it works now. I was thinking that who would be the big popular Halloween costume if there were a Halloween? God knows we can't have Halloween. The Tiger King is still kind of big, so there'd be some Tiger King, some Tiger King costumes, and obviously there'll be Trump costumes. But can't have it. You can have. Think of it. People are wearing masks anyway on Halloween, right?
Right. Well, right. But the Trump costumes can't just be. It has to be Trump
with devil horns.
Yes, devil horns, or the guy with the big hatchet thing. What's that guy? The death guy?
The Grim Reaper. Right.
Yeah.
Say 200 million killed.
Exactly.
Why couldn't we have seen this coming months ago? Like, why couldn't MyPillow make H95 Trump masks or something like that? Why couldn't we have predicted this?
It seems like you should be able to have just everyone have a face covering and go out and trick or treat. But I don't know.
By the way, before we wrap up, I am disappointed today because I think we've already debunked the story. Alyssa Milano was not the one to call the cops yesterday, I believe. That has been debunked at this point. Did you see that story?
I don't believe her. I believe that somebody in that family called the police. The call came from inside the house.
The neighbor's taking the heat. So, Jerry, if you didn't see it, so Alyssa Milano, who on Twitter is probably one in the top 10 of the defund the police movement, right, has an entire the police show up to her house. This, somebody was, what were they wearing? Like some black cape or something like that. And it turns out the guy was just in the woods hunting squirrels, for God's sakes. But the first report was that Alyssa Milano called the police for help and for assistance. And it turns out, or at least they're alleging, the neighbor called the police. And then actually, I think the guy himself may have called just to say, hey, I'm the one who caused the commotion. But I was hoping that Alyssa Milano, who's been bashing the police for months now, was the one who called them in her time of need, I guess.
Speaking of police, can you tell me this? Why have they not caught the shooter in L.A.? The guy was very distinctive looking. We talked about it a lot. He's 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide. He didn't put a lot of thought into it. He just went up and shot the 2 cops. Thank God they're alive. And one of them is already out and home. The other one, by the way, the woman who got shot in the jaw, got a phone call from Trump, which was very nice. He'll probably invite them into the White House at some point. But I thought they would catch him in a matter of hours. He's still roaming free. When are we going to see that? that guy taken into custody.
They have priorities. They're going after guys hunting squirrels right
That's
now.
a good point. Yeah,
Well, and also that's
the guy's in real trouble because I don't know if you noticed in the video when he shot the two cops, wasn't wearing a mask.
Ooh.
Eric
Was he not?
does no mask.
Then he was obviously a right winger, I assume.
Oh, right, a right wing agitator.
Yeah, no, I think one of the reasons that the guy's not been caught is that the media could care less about the shooting at this point. And if Trump called her, then no way they're going to report that. Like Dave said,
I do think it kind of pisses off cops when you shoot them in the head. They get upset. So I would think the rest of the police force would make this priority number one and catch this Oompa Loompa. Right. And I want to see that perp walk. I want to see that evil. I mean, it's the new face of evil. The guy who shot two young cops in the head and then just kind of waddled away.
But like Dave said, this is number one right now today. You're supposed to be floored by the fact that Cindy McCain is endorsing Joe Biden. That's where your mind is supposed to be. And they'll all tell you, from the AP to Reuters to CNN to all the others, that you're supposed to see that and say, wow, that's so abnormal. There must be something seriously wrong with it.
I always base my vote on what Cindy McCain does. I've always felt like she's a leader, a role model, and whatever she does, I follow suit. So,
but also, it's like with obviously Trump was enemies with John McCain. I mean, Cindy McCain would endorse Ho Chi Minh over Donald Trump. It wouldn't be like anything out of the realm of possibility at this moment. But it is funny just how the spoon feeding of all this agate prop comes day after day and day after day.
Get it right. It's a stunning rebuke, Shattuck.
By the way, I actually listened to Alyssa Milano yesterday on an Instagram chat, and she was talking to somebody, an environmentalist, Jerry, and there was a shocking revelation, actually. And if you don't mind, I'll play it really before we go here. This is shocking, and you want to know how the coronavirus started? We find out from Alyssa Milano.
I want to just really take a moment so that our viewers can really understand what's happening. So because they are coming in and taking down trees in the rainforest for farmland, correct?
Yep. Yes.
That we are putting a lot of animals out of their homes, which makes pandemics jump from animals to humans even faster or easier.
There you go, Jerry.
Oh, it all makes sense now.
Yep. Wasn't the Chinese whatsoever. It's Amazon.
Jumped from like squirrels into humans.
It's exactly right.
That's why now it all comes full circle. So that's why there's a guy in the woods hunting squirrels, clearly, to help. Yes, it all makes sense now. I gotcha.
It all comes together. All right, Shattuck. That's Tom Shattuck, host of the Burn Battle podcast. Tom Shattuck of the Lowell Sun, all around media mogul. You got anything? You got anything good coming up?
I'm going to have more Alyssa Milano audio, Jerry, because I cleaned. She's an oracle, so I'm going through that today. I'll have that tonight.
She doesn't look so good anymore. I know she used to be hot. She worries too much. She stresses out too much, and it's showing.
Also, Amy Coney Barrett's age, 47 as well.
48, I believe, right?
Is she 48?
I believe Amy Coney Barrett's 48, and I'm looking forward to that so much. This is going to be a wild weekend, followed up by a big debate on Tuesday. Cannot wait. But thanks, Shattuck, and thanks to Shea Concrete and Allied Paving at DCU, and thanks to all our wonderful sponsors. You can support us by supporting them. We really appreciate it. Anything else, Colin?
Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. People are turning up the heat on Facebook. Big numbers on Facebook, so we appreciate it. So share that stuff. Love it.
Shattuck always brings them in, packs them in. By the way, do you have an alibi on that shooting in L.A.?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'm tall, Jerry. I'm over 6'2". That dude.
Yeah, that's true. You're too tall. But I mean, it was a full-figured individual.
He was Rubenesque like I am, but I was nowhere near that.
That's going to come as a surprise one day. We're just going to be sitting there. It's going to be breaking news, and they're going to show him, and we're going to get this whole story, and it's going to be like the new face of evil. Hopefully he gets roughed up in prison because I don't think just putting.
Well,
him
if he
away
was
is good enough.
if he was willing to shoot 2 cops, he's willing to be in a shootout with cops, and
That's
they
true. It
they
might be
frown on people who have shot their brothers in arms.
Might be
Sisters
like
in arms.
that Antifa guy, that Reinhold guy that went down shooting. Maybe it'll be like that. We'll save us all, spare us all from a trial. But we'll be watching the situation in Louisville and the situation in D.C. and we'll be looking forward to the debate next week. And we'll see how many coaches wear masks this week. That's important to me. Watching coaches fiddle with their masks. I know the feeling. I go into like CVS for 10 minutes and I can't stand it. I don't know how people do that all day, wear the mask. I guess you get used to it, but I don't blame any of these coaches for pulling it down and playing with it. But all right, that's it. This is the Callahan Podcast. I'm Jerry Callahan, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.